It's become a trend for atheists to mock Christians. The kingdom of God has decided to shut down disrespectful atheists that just won't shut up. Like this first guy, we have this atheist who laughed at this preacher and got humiliated afterwards.
Let's talk about how many people atheists have killed.
Atheism killed?
Yep.
I'm gonna fight for the revolution no matter how many conservatives come after me. You can kill me, but there will be 10 more in my place.
This atheist started simple by putting the people first, instead of a deity he didn't see or that cannot go through everything the people are going through. And he also feels the rules should be made by the majority, which are the people, and not by some ruling government.
Right and wrong are defined by majority opinion. Fine, but realize that at times majority opinion is immoral, like Nazi Germany.
That was from an imperialist nation. How do you...
Then the atheist starts talking about the Nazis, and he takes things way too personal.
All right, what are you going to do about it?
Why?
Are you going to be out in the streets fighting the Nazis? I doubt it.
Oh, buddy. I get more than enough opportunities to confront Nazism.
Really? Have you punched a Nazi? Have you gone out in the streets and decked a Nazi? Have you done that?
Just when the conversation was looking out of hand for the atheist, they drifted into the justification of the wrong things people do. And as the preacher was trying to explain how men diminish the meaning of sex and force themselves on women, the atheist once again flew off the handle.
And to trivialize
you're
a woman...
complaining 2 points right there. See, that's
No,
a
I'm
rhetorical
not.
trick. Anyone who watches politicians, this is exactly what the they do. They try to manipulate their speech by like saying a bunch of different things that have nothing to do with each other and try to conflate the other thing in order to make it seem like the other person has that viewpoint. No. I said nothing about women. I said nothing about the sanctity of sex. I said nothing about it. I said that it's a common vernacular. And the fact that you're trying to trivialize it and you're trying to make it look like I hate women or I hate sex is bullshit.
Not the
and you
point.
know it. You're doing it and you know
No,
it.
I'm not doing that. You're lying.
You're
You are lying, sir. You're out of touch with reality. And that's sad.
Where my country
Very
gone?
sad.
This next guy, Kent Hovind, shut down like a king.
And that's your problem. The God that I worship is not limited by time, space, or matter. If I could fit the infinite God in my 3-pound brain, he would not be worth worshiping, that's for certain.
He was asked a rather testing question that would have some Christians shaking.
I am confused. Being philosophically consistent and being a very honest person, I'm sure you can tell me where God came from.
That wasn't all the question that was asked. The professor went on to add that once Hovind was done asking that question, he should also answer this follow-up question, which is about how a spiritual matter can make changes in the physical one. Then the professor gave this analogy.
If angels are made of spiritual matter and a pen is made of material matter and spiritual matter displaces no space, how many angels can dance on the tip of a pen?
Then Kent Hovind moved to answer the question, and the answer was brilliant.
Because the God of the Bible is not affected by time, space, or matter. If he's affected by time, space, or matter, he's not God. Time, space, and matter is what we call a continuum. All of them have to come into existence at the same instant. Because if there were matter but no space, where would you put it? If there were matter and space but no time, when would you put it? You cannot have time, space, or matter independently. They have to come into existence simultaneously.
He didn't stop there. He went on further into the Trinities of Trinity, a concept I wasn't even familiar with until now.
In the beginning, there's time. God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth, there's matter. So you have time, space, matter, created a trinity of trinities there. Just, time is past, present, future. Space has length, width, height. Matter has solid, liquid, gas. You have a trinity of trinities created instantaneously.
And just to top it all off, he has an example of how the person who created a system cannot have to be in the system to control it.
And the God who created them has to be outside of them. If he's limited by time, he's not God. The guy who created this computer is not in the computer. He's not running around in there changing the numbers on the screen, okay? The God who created this universe is outside of the universe. He's above it, beyond it, in it, through it. He's unaffected by it.
And for the final touchdown that left the atheist's jaws lined up on the floor was about a limited God.
And the concept that a spiritual force cannot have any effect on a material body, well then I guess you'd have to explain to me things like emotions and love and hatred and envy and jealousy and rationality. I mean, if your brain is just a random collection of chemicals that form by chance over billions of years, how on earth can you trust your own reasoning processes and the thoughts that you think?
If you felt that, hit the like and subscribe button. This next guy is way worse and way out of line. He came up to ask a question, but the question was a heavy one. A little history on the atheist, though. He used to be a Christian who was looking forward to be a preacher, but according to him, something happened, And now, even with lost faith, he's still got questions.
But I want to ask you a simple question. Do you believe in witchcraft?
Do I believe, what do you mean, like, do I think it's a good thing?
Well, do you believe witches
Do I believe in a
exist?
demonic realm that can be accessed? Yes.
Well, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, do you believe in witchcraft?
Define what you mean by witchcraft.
A witch. Witches. Do you believe in witches? Like the Witch of Endor, for example?
Oh, well, in the biblical sense, yes, of course,
Right.
yeah.
The next thing the atheist asked was if the preacher believed in giants. He says he doesn't believe that giants were real because they are no proofs of it ever existing. Then he asked if being brought back from the dead is all the more reason why people believe in God. To clarify the question, he then moved on to say this.
For example, if I stood here, claimed I was God, died tomorrow, and was risen 3 days later, does that make me God? Does that prove my claims?
Well, if you had predicted it long in advance, if you were sinless, if you did 35 other miracles over 3 years, and then you did that, yep.
That's not proof, though. It does not logically follow that because I can rise from the dead.
The question is, what do you mean by proof?
The atheist then said that doing those things would only point to him having supernatural powers, and that would point out that witches and the devil are real. But the preacher debunked that, saying just because something has been proven doesn't mean everyone can accept it, but the question still remains.
What your standard of proof is. What kind of proof would you need to think that Jesus was God?
Well, that's an interesting question because, honestly, I don't know. I don't know how anyone could prove that they are omnipotent and all-knowing.
Well, you could predict the future.
Well, predicting the future, I mean, the weatherman, more or less, is able to do that, but not perfectly.
Then the atheist went on to say that some of Jesus' prophecies were false, explaining about the prophecy that says the moon would turn red and the stars would fall right before the end of time as
that prophecy is demonstratively false.
Then be said that the only reason why he is no longer a Christian is because after reading the Bible, he believed that witches were real. Then he said that Jesus cannot be real. The preacher shut him down simply like this.
Well, no, not necessarily true. There wouldn't even be a New Testament if Jesus hadn't risen from the dead. And there wouldn't even be a church unless the resurrection.
They wouldn't be Christians if Jesus didn't resurrect. And that's not the first time this preacher had to put someone in place. This next guy started his statement saying that God is the last person that should draw the standards of morality.
Because morality should not come from God, because in the Bible...
The preacher immediately pointed out that he was using the word should, which means there's another entity out there that should draft the morality standards. And when he was asked why and where he got the word from, his answer will blow your mind.
Endorses and condones slavery, murder, and rape. He does.
And then when asked why he said that, he said God endorsed it in the Bible.
Morality should not come from God because in the Bible, God clearly endorses and condones slavery, murder, and rape. He does. And all I need to do to support that is quote Leviticus 25, however, you may purchase male or female slaves among the foreigners who live among you.
Then the preacher asked if something was wrong with slavery, murder, and rape. Obviously there is, but that's my opinion and that's the atheist's opinion. The preacher told the atheist that since he doesn't have any other god or deity to draw the morality standards, then he can't say that the moral standards of the Bible are wrong. The preacher left the young atheist speechless.
I think the Bible's wrong morally. But what you can't say is, the Bible's wrong morally, but I don't have a standard to call it immoral. You can say that the Bible's immoral only if you have a God that says the Bible's immoral, right?
Yes.
Okay, but you can't be an atheist and say the Bible's immoral. Because you have no standard of morality.
Wait a sec, I'm an atheist. I can say the Bible's immoral.
Yeah, but you can't justify it because you have no standard of morality by which to say something's immoral.
Yes, I do.
What is it?
I have
That's
a
what we've been
standard of
asking.
morality. It's not okay to kill someone or rape someone or enslave someone.
But that's just your opinion. Hitler says it is. So it's just subjective. It's your subjective opinion against Hitler's subjective opinion.
Yes, opinions are subjective.
So it's not an objective morality then. That's what you're saying.
This next guy will blow your mind. Let me first show you what he said that blew my mind.
I personally believe it is a fallacy because he had pimps and prostitutes for the first believers.
You got to be kidding me. You're standing out here saying the reason I can't trust Jesus Christ is because some of his first followers were pimps and prostitutes.
This guy's whole argument is based on the fact that some of the first people who followed Jesus were pimps, and that word I can't use. Let's call them rakes and cutlasses. So because rakes and cutlasses followed Jesus initially and he sees them as questionable people, he decided to debunk Christianity. His first question was, who were the first followers?
Jesus' first followers were a group of fishermen, tax collectors, a Jewish zealot named Simon the Zealot.
Pimps, whores.
Pimps, whores. Yes, that was definitely part of it also.
And you're saying these are credible people?
Yes, I certainly am.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, really?
No matter how many times the preacher tried to shut him down, the atheist did not change his mind even for a second.
Their point is that Jesus' first followers were whores and prostitutes. That's a proof.
No, they were not all whores and prostitutes and pimps.
Was Jesus a Jew?
After feeling the gut-wrenching pain of defeat, he decided to fly off the handle and ask questions that do not even count. And this, my friend, is a sign of pure defeat, and since the preacher is a nice guy and realized that the boy had no substance, he just entertained the question.
Yeah, he sure was a Jew.
Okay, so you're worshiping a Jew, are you not?
I worship a Jew. You got that right.
Okay, great. Now, what was Jesus' first meal? His last meal, I'm sorry.
What was his last meal? What do you mean, what was his last meal? What did he eat?
What was his last meal? When did he last eat?
I don't know what he last ate.
What was his last meal, specifically?
I don't know what his last meal was specifically.
This time we've got someone who's clearly done their homework, and it gets heated fast. The atheist jumps right in, questioning if God really exists. The preacher pulls out an analogy that needed a sculptor. The complexity of the human eye and brain demands a designer.
Carved out the heads on Mount Rushmore. That would be ludicrous. The order and design of those heads of those presidents up on Mount Rushmore demands a sculptor. Similarly, the intricacy of the human eye.
But the atheist fires back, saying evolution explains all this complexity without needing God. The preacher said that God can use evolution to create. The atheist said that wouldn't that just prove evolution and strike out God completely?
A shirt comes from a tailor. A meal comes from a cook. A book comes from an author. A building comes from an architect. Mount Rushmore comes from a sculptor. Never once do I observe order come out of chaos by chance.
Not necessarily. A
meal
can come out of anything. It doesn't have to
You've
come.
got to be kidding me. A meal can come out of anything?
Yeah.
Things get personal when the atheist asks why we should believe in God. The preacher talks about his 3 sons and how when someone gives you gifts, you say thank you. Since God gave us life, we should thank him. But the atheist pushes back hard.
God is a he, a personal being. No, he's not a male, but he's a personal being who loves you. It takes a personal being.
He does not love me.
Well, Jesus said he does, so take it up with Jesus.
Apparently he does not.
Why do you say God doesn't love you?
Because of what has happened in my life.
Okay, good.
The conversation gets deep, talking about Genesis 3. When humans told God to get lost, he stepped back from Earth and chaos erupted. The most intense part comes when they're debating free will and love.
And when we human beings abused our free will, there were horrible consequences.
Okay.
Life broke down.
But why would he give us that?
What? Good question. Ultimately, I do not know why God chose to create us with free will. He didn't consult me, obviously, when he chose to do that. But to the best of my thinking, my understanding is the only way love can be real is if there's free will.
Then the preacher delivers the most brutal reality check. He tells the atheist to imagine his girlfriend says, "I love you." The preacher's final question was simple, but his final words were devastating.
And your father called you up tonight and told you that he's been paying her $1,000 a week to, quote, love you. I think you'd be a little bummed out.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily? Okay, good. You're being
something.
consistent. I think it's scary.
But
If you wouldn't be bummed out if your dad called you up tonight and said, "Son, I've been paying her $1,000 a week to love you," I think that something's broken in you really bad.
This next debate is absolutely insane. This female atheist just destroyed every argument, but wait for the twist. Right off the bat, she tries to trap him in evolution. He has no problem with evolution being taught as a process, but here's the problem.
And I have the utmost respect for professors who teach evolution as a process. My problem is with the intellectual dishonesty of so many professors who teach evolution not as a process, but as an origin. And they do that in the name of science. That is intellectually dishonest, I am convinced.
The atheist tries to flip this, saying evolution is design, just chaotic design without God. But Cliff nails her with the real question.
See, the question, is there an intelligent mind behind the process of evolution, is not a scientific question. It's a philosophical question. So what do you think? Is it more reasonable to believe that behind the amazing process of evolution there's an intelligent mind? Or do you think it's more reasonable to believe behind the amazing process of evolution there's no intelligent mind? It's all just chance and fate. What's more reasonable?
Her answer reveals everything. She thinks it's more reasonable to believe in chaos than a magical being in the sky. But Cliff drops the Einstein card. Then she tries to get him on God's gender. Cliff's response is perfect.
What? Who's to say that God has a gender?
Oh, that's very simple, man. God doesn't have big biceps and facial hair. When we say God is he, the only reason we say he is because we don't have a personal neuter pronoun. The only neuter pronoun we have is it. And God is not an it. God is a personal being who loves. But you're right.
So God is a person?
Personal being. Personal being. Not body, torso, head, arms, legs. Personal being, a spiritual being, but not an it. God is not the force.
And here's where it gets intense.
Doesn't the Bible say that if someone doesn't believe in God and accept him into their heart, that they're going to eternal damnation?
Yes.
How can something love me and also want to give me pain? How can something love me conditionally? That's not love. Love is unconditional. And if God loves me, then he, she, it is not sending me to eternal damnation.
Then Cliff drops the hammer. He brings up atheist philosophers like Nietzsche and Camus, who took atheism to its logical conclusion. If there's no God, life is meaningless. Camus said the only question atheists have to answer is, why not commit suicide?
And not only do you have intrinsic value, but you are put here for a purpose.
Correct.
And that extinguishing your life is an insult to that purpose.
It's an insult to my creator.
And your creator.
It's saying, hey, God, when you made me, you did a lousy job. That's what suicide is. It's not worth living. God, what you gave me, this gift of life, is not worth it. But that's wrong.
Here's the twist that'll blow your mind. She goes on about how mentally she comforts herself, and it could also mean that the preacher is comforting himself in his delusion of being comforted by a higher being. And when the preacher was about to give his final statement, you won't believe what the girl says. Immediately she heard the preacher say, maybe God's not real.
Maybe I'm just talking to myself. Maybe God doesn't talk to me. It's possible.
Maybe God isn't there?
Maybe God isn't there. That's right. It's a possibility.
I rest my case. I have to go to class.
See, that's really intellectually dishonest. If I acknowledge that it's possible that God doesn't exist and you say, I rest my case, the implications of that are so dishonest, it's scary.
But
you did it, ma'am. I didn't do it. That is really scary.
That's a great time to stop.
Well, she can stop whenever she wants to stop, but she better not walk away thinking, wow, because a Christian says it's possible that God does not exist. I rest my case. God doesn't exist.
No, that's not, my case is not that God doesn't exist.
Good. What was your point when you said I rest my case? Because I had just said it's possible God doesn't exist, and you said I rest my case. Please explain what you meant by that.
We've come to the end of this video. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.